Shirley's going to share some thoughts and ideas, and then we're going to talk around some of the things that Swelly brings this morning. So I'm going to pray for us this morning, and let's just have some worship, and then we'll hand over to Swelly. So Jesus, we just honour you in this place. So we just thank you for the time and season we're in. We just pray that in time and in this season, that our eyes, our hearts, and our spirits would be focused in and on you. And everybody said, Amen.
Good morning, everybody. How's it going? The sun's out. How fun. I think they keep getting the weather wrong. They keep saying it's going to rain and then it's all sunny. I don't know about anybody else, but I said to Adam this morning, I just feel so disconnected and frazzled. But it didn't take long to come here and just sit with God and just for a moment just go, okay, remember who you are, I remember what you said, and what you are and who you said are a firm foundation for my life, and they will not change. They're like good roots. And it doesn't matter what happens, what winds blow us what way, God and Jesus is a safe place. It's a really safe place to be. So hopefully, Adam and I are going to play you a song now called Be Still. And feel free to eat and drink and just ponder who God is, and that He's in control and that He's got you no matter what. Be still and know that the Lord is in control. Be still, my soul. Stand and watch as giants fall. I won't be afraid. You are here. You silence all my fear. I won't be afraid. You don't let go. You still my heart and know I won't be afraid. Sorry. Be still and trust what the Lord has said is done. Find rest, don't strive. Watch as faith and grace align. Don't be afraid. You are here. You silence all my fear. Won't be afraid. Let go. Be still, my heart, and know. Be still and trust what the Lord has said is done. Find rest, don't strive. Watch as faith and grace align. Won't be afraid. You are here. You silence all my fear. Won't be afraid. You don't let go. Be still, my heart, and know. Surely love and mercy, your peace and kindness will follow me, will follow me. Surely love and kindness, your peace and mercy will follow me, will follow me. Surely love and mercy, your peace and kindness will follow me, will follow me. Surely love and mercy, your peace and kindness that the Lord is in control. Be still, my soul. Stand and watch as giants fall. Won't be afraid, you are here. You silence all my fears. Won't be afraid, you don't let go. Be still my heart and know. Won't be afraid. God, I thank you so much for every single person here, for every life, for every journey, for every worry, for every fear, for every joy. And I thank you so much, God, that no matter what, that you are right next to us, that you're with us, and all we need to do is just sit and be still and let your presence flow over us. Help us to rest in that place today, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Hello. Thanks, guys, so much for that. I think that's a very fundamental and important concept for us all to understand, is just to be still at times. Because our lives can be so busy, we can get caught up with so many things. And I think that simple principle of just being still and remembering who God is can really help us enter. So thank you so much, guys. Awesome job. All right, I'll reiterate what Dave said. Thank you so much for all of us being at church today. How good is it to be back in church? Feels like forever. I think even some introverts were actually saying, I think I want to hang out with some of those extroverts and have conversations. It's Movember again, for those people who don't know. Hey, how good is it to be able to grow this grizzly thing on your top lip? Half of my family didn't even realise I'd started Movember. They said, oh no, what have you done? And I said, I shaved this like 4 days ago. They didn't even realise. Maggie said, I was looking at you, but I didn't notice. I said, what, you didn't notice my face? So it's good to be having that going on again. Welcome to Culburra and everyone online here. So the way today's going to play out is I will just share some thoughts around the topic today, and then we'll break off for questions. Those online will go with Dave, and he'll put the questions for them, and everyone in Culburra, Dean will lead you through those. And since it's been a while, we've been away from church, we're sort of just having discussions. I think it's nice that we're back, and let's have some of the topics that we can actually talk to after church. And again, thank you so much for this beautiful food, as we always get. Kathleen and Jay, you guys are amazing, so thank you so much for that. So as Dave said, the theme that we're going to sort of work towards leading up to Christmas is just really delving into who is Christ, and probably more specifically, the uniqueness of Christ. He was one of a kind. There was no other like him. He cannot be compared to other religions, beliefs, or leaders, only contrasted. Yeah, he can't be sort of, he is completely different. And again, hopefully we can look into that. As a disclaimer, I'll say that a lot of the structure today has been taken from a sermon by David Paulson around Jesus. So what sets him apart from others? And again, this is a sort of very broad sort of way of looking at things, but we will hopefully over the next couple of weeks look at 3 things of Christ's ministry that sort of set him apart. First, his miracles, walking on water, raising people from the dead. The second is his morality, the Sermon on the Mount, his teachings that we all are probably familiar with. And then lastly, his message, who he claimed to be, who he claimed to be and what he said that he could do. 2 of these things only help people, but one of these things was the reason he was actually put to death as one of the worst criminals. So we'll sort of explore that over the next couple of weeks. And again, hopefully we can pull this apart. My prayer is that, again, as Dave said, that we grow closer to who he is and what it means for him in our lives, yeah? And again, if you think about, for a lot of people, the word Jesus outside has got nothing to do with the person that you would believe in. It's just a curse word. So I think for us, it's good for us to really know who we believe in and what we're doing, yeah? So let's explore Jesus a little bit. I'll just give a little background to him. So for someone who is so central to our culture and someone that a lot of people, whether you believe in him or not, know about him, there's little written about him, certainly in his early years. His birth was very normal, yeah? He lived with a family. He was birthed the same way we were all birthed. He had brothers and sisters, apart from his mother being a virgin, that was, yeah? But apart from that part, he was very much sort of, you know, born into a family and raised as we all have been. One significant thing that Jesus did do, as opposed to all of us, though, around his birth, is that he actually chose to be born. Yeah, he actually says, I chose to come at this time. I actually chose to be born. Most of us didn't have a choice in being born. We were just born, which again, I think is one of those little unique things about Christ, that he actually chose to come to this earth in the way he did. So up until the age of 12, we don't really know much about him at all, until we actually see that when he goes off and probably has his Jewish sort of bar mitzvah, and he becomes that rite of going from a boy to a man, and then we find him preaching in the temple. Then his family did what all good families do, and they lost him for several days. And then they find him, and there he is teaching in his father's, in a synagogue with the people. And his response was interesting. He said, I am about my father's business. Yeah? And that he meant his father in heaven, not his father on earth. But then for 18 years, we don't hear about him at all. And he basically grows up as a carpenter. Yeah, there's several verses that describe him as a carpenter, and he followed in his father's, as a lot of Jewish children did, he followed in his father's footsteps. So the only time we really know is the 3 years of his ministry. At the end of his 3 years of his ministry, he was judicially convicted to death. So that means he actually went in front of a court, and he was actually put to death because of being a criminal. And he was not only put to death, he was put to death in one of the worst ways possible, which was crucifixion, yeah? And Romans weren't even allowed to be put to death by crucifixion. It was so bad. I probably won't go into that. I was going to talk a little bit about crucifixion, but just trust me that it's probably one of the worst ways to die. So let's focus on his miracles, yeah? Let's have a little look about his miracles. Now, there's many writers outside of the Bible, Roman writers, Jewish writers, that talk about him being a miracle worker. It's one of the things that everyone sort of very much agrees on, that Christ did lots of miracles. And it actually says of his miracles in John 21:25, Jesus did so many other things as well, that even if one of them was written, if every one of them was written down, I suppose there would not be, I suppose that even the whole world would not have room in the books that were written about him. Okay, so there's so many things that he does. There's some that we've recorded in the scriptures, but there's many that have never ever been recorded. So I think that, you know, this is just a little bit of what he actually did. So they probably break up into two main topics, and miracles is what we're going to talk about today. So two types of miracles. The main miracles are the miracles he did for other people. And this very much had a theme around healing people, yeah? It was very much around healing. And again, you can look at so many. He heals people that were lepers, people who had illnesses. He healed people that had been paralyzed for life, people that had been blind since birth. He drove out spirits in people. He healed people that had been crippled for 18 years. And then he did some of those amazing ones, which was bringing people back from the dead. So that's sort of one type of sort of miracles that he did. And I think some of the interesting aspects around the ones that he did for people is that at a very simple level, he met people's needs. Yeah? There were needs of the people, and he met them at that time. And often these people were in distress, they had burdens, they had misery, and he saw it and he relieved it. Most of them were done in secret. Most of them weren't done in public so everyone knew about them. Most of them were just done in secret. A lot of them, he says, don't tell anyone about it. And again, most of the time, miracles were not the point. Yeah? The point was that it would help convict someone, he would either reach someone, or he would show God's love to someone. That's what the miracles were for. They were not really for themselves, but they conveyed something. Most of the miracles also were based around faith. Yeah? Either the person's faith or the person who was doing its faith. Obviously, Christ had the faith, but when we talk about some of the people later in the Bible who did similar things, it was all around their faith. So again, I think some of the things that typify miracles It's not only on the person who's wanting something to happen, it also can be on the person who is the vessel to distribute that. And again, there were other miracles that he did with things. Okay, he turned water to wine. What a cool guy to have at a party. There was the miraculous catching of the fish. He calmed the storm. I can't even begin to imagine the significance of being able to calm a storm. He fed 5,000. He fed 4,000. He walked on the water. He did things that were just so beyond what anyone could possibly imagine. And even these things that were done in public, such as feed the 5,000, the water into wine, they were still done in private. If you were at that party, at that wedding, and you were the person who was given wine, you probably had no idea where that wine came. Yeah, not only was it wine, it was the best wine. You know, they talk about why did you save the good wine for last? We normally give the terrible wine. And he made that from water. So the only people who probably knew about that were the people in the back, where that came from. And again, feeding the 5,000, if you're in that 5,000 group and those loaves and fishes come to you, you wouldn't have known where they came from. You didn't realize that came from 3 little bits of bread and a couple of bits of fish. So I think even the things that he did in public were sort of not really known about. But at the end of the day, there were people around Christ's time who also claimed to perform miracles, but none like his. Some of his miracles possibly could have been put down to, because one of the biggest criticisms of miracles is that, people say, it was going to happen anyway, it was by chance, it was by coincidence. Now, some of the things you could possibly say that he did may have fall into that category, like healing a child who had fever, some of the illnesses he did, but so many of them could be unquestionable. There was no reason that any of them would have happened, yeah? People that had been blind from birth that he healed. Yeah, he raised someone from the dead. Not only did he raise someone from the dead, he raised someone 4 days from the dead. They actually said, the woman said, don't go in there, he will smell like a person who's been dead for 4 days. Yeah, and he goes in and raises Lazarus. These are not things that were possibly going to happen, was probably likely that it was going to happen. The loaves and fishes, he cast out demons, and the demons knew him by name. There were so many things that he did that were not just going to happen by chance, yeah, which I think is important. But do we believe that these things can actually happen in our lives? Are these something that we can sort of achieve and do? It's easy to read these accounts, but do we believe that these things, 1, happened, and 2, could they happen in our lives? Now, the disciples are people who actually walked around who did these things, yes? The disciples before and after Christ passed away were 2 different people, really, I think, all groups of men, yeah? Before they seemed to got it all wrong, didn't really know what was going on. After it, these were completely convicted men who walked around and walked in everything that he walked in. And it says in John 14:12, very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works that I have done, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to my Father, and I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. You may ask of me everything in my name, and I will do it. Yeah, that's an encouraging thing. Not only will you do things that Christ did, you will be able to do things greater than he did, which is pretty insane, isn't it? Yeah? But are we people who believe in big miracles? Are we people who have the faith to believe in these sorts of things? I would love to stand here and say my life has been littered with huge miracles, but it hasn't. And I sort of think to myself sometimes, am I someone? And again, if you look at the way Christ did it, if we're going to emulate Christ, predominantly the way he did it is he met people's needs. We could be people's miracles. Very simple. Yeah? We probably make it way harder than it should be, and we probably don't have the faith. Remember, faith is that thing that you see that hasn't happened, and you believe that it's going to happen. That's what faith is. Faith isn't a wishy-washy, hope it happens. It's literally going, I see it. Yeah? Now, let me just tell you a little story. Myself and Kath have walked through a journey with a good friend of ours, Nicole and Jeff, recently. Jeff is an awesome friend of ours, and a couple of years ago he got cancer, pretty severe cancer. He had 2 years of treatment, finally got out the other end of it. Probably been working a year, and about maybe a month and a half ago, he was on the roof of his house, and his wife heard a loud crash, and she goes out and finds him completely unconscious. Now, he basically probably had a bleed in his brain while he was on the roof, and then he fell down onto the thing and had a severe head injury. He's basically spent the last 4.5 weeks in ICU. They had to take out 2 bits the side of his bone out of his head to allow his brain to swell. Dire circumstances, yeah? This is not sort of terrible stuff, yeah? And so we've basically walked with our good friend Nicole for the last 4.5 weeks, yeah? And some of the times it's been really quite difficult, yeah? Even when he finally did wake up, he was basically agitated, confused. He had to be heavily sedated. And the prognosis, as you can imagine, was very poor. I have a very good working knowledge of medicine, so I had probably even more of a knowledge of what was possibly could come. But we walked each day with Nicole, and let me tell you, there were days when it was really dire and really difficult, yeah? But 3 or 4 days ago, he literally just woke up, yeah? And he ended up sort of, yeah, and he just started to, he had a tracheostomy in where he had to breathe through there, but he started to know people, he started to do people. Is there a picture of him at all? Can we get that up at all, Dean? That's him there, yeah. And not only to that, and something that's quite amazing to that photo is that 2 of those, these are his boys. They'd been quite estranged for many years. And Nicole, amongst this all, and again, a lot of the people who were praying prayed that relationships would be restored. Nicole was convicted one night to sort of fast. The next day, the 2 boys ring up and say, "Can we come and see my dad?" And that's the 2 of them up there. It's insane what the faith can be built in someone, yeah? It's not easy. This was not an easy journey. There were days when there was so poor prognosis that you really started to think, okay, we've just got to hope for the best. We've got to believe for the best. But we were truly just believing all of the time for him to be fully restored. Look, he still has a way to go. But the reality is, it has built such faith in us that God can do amazing things. The ICU nurses are just astounded. They literally had an internal forum and they wrote to each other. They just saw Jeff outside, can't believe it. They call him the miracle guy. Yeah? Like insane stuff, yeah? So we've got to be so thankful that our God is a person who hears our prayers and who will come through. Doesn't always be easy, isn't always going to be. And I'm not saying that he won't have a hard road ahead, but the reality is from where he was predicted to be. Alrighty, so this is probably where the time where we go for the people online. We'll go and you guys can have some questions. Kyle Burrow, we'll see you next time. Again, Dean going to lead you in some questions. Alrighty, for everyone here. So what we'll do is I'm just going to toss out a question. I don't know, we'll give you a couple of minutes to talk about it around the tables. We can share if you would like to. And then we can sort of get on. Is that okay? Yeah? I've stunned everyone now. Alrighty. So the first question that I'd like is to just